It was in the initial days after the earthquake we first spotted Jeanette Traversy, the hard-to-miss, heart-on-sleeve Canadian who'd made her own way to Nepal.
Babu, if you hear me, I'm coming in.
A paramedic who'd long vacationed in Lanagal, a village outside Kathmandu, had taught first aid there and knew when the quake struck, she needed to go back and dig in with whatever cash she could gather.
I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you. Let's go see.
Until Traversy showed up, the 35 families hadn't encountered any helping hands. Lanagal was a mess and needed everything. A little girl had died, and in Traversy, that child's mom found a needed and familiar face. After we left her that day, Traversy stayed to buy tarps and food and building supplies. She only had a bit of money and soon had to return to Canada for work. But back at home in Montreal, her son had been fundraising. The pace of generosity, a little alarming.
I set the limit, okay, let's fundraise 500. And then we did that. Let's fundraise 1,000. And then it got scary at one point because I'm like, what's going on?
1 year later, Traversy's fund for Lanagal sits at $22,000, and she's going back.
Mom, I have your flags.
Aha, my lucky
There we go.
flags.
And she's going back wiser.
Thomas, you get my teddy bears?
Shoes.
Shoes. Teddy bear.
Passport.
Passport.
Here we go.
Last year, she felt the pain of watching aid groups simply drive by the village thinking all was in hand, not realizing the scale of need. And she felt the fury over price gouging.
It was outrageous. It was a price that I would never pay in Canada, as expensive it was, but I had no choice. I mean, people needed to have shelter, there were rains coming in. So we did have to pay the big price for some stuff.
In the years since, the Canadian donations have helped buy a generator and more basics. But she needed to see it all for herself. So, Lanagal this week.
Trying to reinforce, not totally by code, but what we wanted to rebuild. At least those ones are made up of clay. Some of the others were made up of this material where with water, they were just coming apart just like this.
Families who'd lost homes received a few $100s from the government, and some NGOs contributed to temporary shelters.
So they've been living into that house, that tiny little house. There's lots of them in there. Very, very hot.
So hot, some are forced outside again. It's not a solution, and there hasn't been much more help. Nepal's political complications so bad that Habitat for Humanity had to cancel its plans to build houses for the first time in 32 years. Save the Children wanted to build 6,000 homes, but is still waiting for permission. So then, as now, recovery is piecemeal. We asked Traversy to check in on some we'd met last April. That woman who'd lost her child has started a small business, is finding smiles again. And then there was Sergia Maya, digging for anything she could find in her ruined home. She and her husband had been alone in the fields when the earthquake happened, had lost everything, including their phone, filled with numbers of family they were desperate to reach. Since we met them, fortunes have changed. A British NGO, New Earth, went to Lanagal to build one earthquake-resistant house made from the debris. The community decided together that that house should go to Sergia and her husband, as they needed it the most.
As you can see, all those bags has been filled with clay, and then they put some mortars between it. And the most amazing thing about here is cool.
It is the beauty of a place like Lanagal that they make all decisions as a community, and they're about to make another one. What to do with the money Jeanette Traversy has raised. A water system, more houses. What they choose, Traversy will try to make happen with the funds from those Canadian donors who stepped up.
It is so touching, so moving that so many people came together for this village.
Recovery in a place like Lanagal looks like so much more than bricks and mortar. A little bit of fun with the help of a real friend goes a long way. For CBC News, I'm Adrienne Arsenault.